Well, good morning, everybody, and thanks for taking time to join our breakout session today. My name is Steve Sack. I work for 1010 Data. My role is Vendor Engagement Manager, so I'm sort of a supplier-facing individual. And I'm very pleased today to have gained the cooperation of the Johnson & Johnson Company, who's going to talk to you a little bit today. In this morning's session, we heard about how 1010 Data allows you to leverage your creativity and analyze data in an iterative manner. And that's what the team at Johnson & Johnson sort of faced. You know, they're a big company, they have very mature brands doing a lot of business, and they were challenged to try to grow their business in ways beyond what, you know, standard reporting was able to do. And the J&J team used our ad hoc capabilities to drive through the data in an iterative manner to go ahead and find new ways to grow business through conventional elements such as the circular, such as distribution and promotion, right? So I'm not going to take a lot of time telling you about it. I don't want to steal anybody's thunder. So I'm going to ask Shelby Hallas, who's a sales analyst for J&J, come up and begin this presentation. If you have any questions as you go along, please raise, but we are going to have Q&A at the end. So with that, Shelby, take it away. Thank you.
So I first wanted to, that's louder than I thought. I wanted to thank everyone for coming. I'm really excited to share some of the work that I've done. I've been on the Ready team at Johnson & Johnson for about a year and 3 months now. Started off working on our first aid, baby care, and oral care brands, our categories, and now I've recently just transitioned over to our OTC businesses. So covering digestive health, pain care, upper respiratory, and eye care. So it's been an exciting transition the past month or so, but the bulk of what I'll be talking about today is really around the categories that I've spent the most time on. So to start this off, I wanted to do some trivia, because at least I'm competitive, so I'm sure some of you are as well. What I'm going to do, and what this trivia is really going to do, is show you from a high level some of the information that I use on a regular basis through 1010, and specifically the ad hoc tool. So raise your hand. I'm going to hopefully choose whoever's hand goes up first. I know this is hard, but I'll show the answers and then shoot your hands up. So first question, which item in the Halloween candy category had the highest amount of shoppers during the month of Halloween, so October? A, Snickers, B, candy corn, C, M&M Fun Size, or D, Reese's? Yes? Correct. I didn't think that was, okay, awesome, good job. Because everyone I asked before this did not guess candy corn, so good. So you did your homework before you came. I'm glad, makes my life easier. Okay, so question number 2. Which category had the largest basket growth versus year ago during the week of Christmas, so leading up to December 25th? A, jewelry, B, digestive health, C, fitness, or D, giftware? Yes. Oh. Whoa, no! What were you going to say?
No, it's fitness.
I know. I tried to throw up, digestive health, all the food, fitness, all the food, giftware, and all that. But yes, it was fitness. So that's great that people are getting ahead of the game after all the food they eat. Well, I don't know how many people saw it. If you saw it, if you saw the answer, don't raise your hand. So what is the number 1 cookie in the basket with ice cream? Chips Ahoy, Oreos, vanilla wafers, or Nutter Butters? Did anyone not see it? Oh, you got it. Did you see it? Yeah, makes sense. So once again, I find this information very interesting. Personally, I and my team look at basket data all the time. It's really interesting to kind of dig through the data, and you could always go deeper to find out what's in shoppers' baskets, whether it's with your brands, your category, and so on. So the information is really endless, and I hope you got a little taste of that through the trivia. So what I'll be talking about today is really around category management. 3 buckets that I'll be focusing on are assortment, promotion, and merchandising, kind of the foundations of category management. So I'll get right into it. With my first example, it's really around assortment. And just for a show of hands, who's on the supplier side of the business? Awesome. so you guys are going to know what I'm talking about. So category reviews, if you don't know what they are, it's really the one opportunity or one of the main opportunities to get your assortment right throughout the year. And that was kind of our business challenge in one of our categories. So our baby care category, we really needed to nail down the right assortment. We recognized that some changes had to be made. So with my CDM, my manager, and with myself, we wanted to optimize the assortment to really maximize sales. So it was my job to then go ahead and start mining through the data. So what would this look like, right? And it really came down to two things. The first being, there's always the POS, right? We all get the list, the dollar ranking, and there's that line that gets drawn, and there's items that fall below the line. And sometimes you can't help that. I mean, the items that are below the line, they're below the line. But a big thing, and I'm sure you've all been there, is when those items are below the line, it doesn't necessarily prove their worth. So the POS doesn't always sell value. And it could be declining, but it can still be a very important item in your category. So what I was able to do using 1010 data was prove that POS did not, in fact, equal value. So it's the bottom 20%, yes. It might be declining, it might be growing, whatever it may be, but somehow it's still down there. But that doesn't, in fact, prove what it's worth to your category or to your entire front-end store. So what I went ahead and did was use 1010 data and the ad hoc tool and so on to look at the shopper and basket data, because that is always what kind of creates this full picture. And in fact, the items that were falling below this line were, items that had really strong loyalty. So I was able to prove that these were items that were in fact over-indexing with the Rite Aid shoppers. That they were actually +1 items in the basket. So apart from the items that are up here, these items are in fact being that extra item that people are putting in their basket when they're shopping. And then the shoppers in the baskets that are shopping these items are X amount more valuable than the category or than front end. So really, and then my favorite, pretty much any ad hoc that I do is looking at cross-purchase. So saying, okay, this item is falling down here, but people are in fact, more often than not, buying it with items that are up here, the number ones, the number twos, the top 50%, et cetera.
Out of curiosity, what is one of those categories that falls below that threshold that people are throwing in a basket?
No, I'm talking about items.
That's what I mean, items.
Oh, well, that's an item ranking. Do you want me to give you a specific item? It was like a bubble bath item. Yeah. And so on and so forth. More niche items. Mom's buying another, wash item. She doesn't necessarily want the bubbles. So it's that +1 if you want to have fun time in the bath. Yeah. So cross-purchase, what I was saying was, and feel free to keep shouting out questions as I go along, and if you want me to clarify something. What I was able to prove is that, okay, this item is down here, but it's in fact more often than not being purchased with items that are higher ranking. So you take this item out, and you're going to lose sales on that type item as well. And so the next bucket in this category review and getting the assortment right was really around getting in items that we didn't already have as a part of our assortment and kind of proving why these items deserve to be on shelf. So you're saying, okay, well, how did you prove that if it's not on shelf? So you look at the national data and you say, it's doing X amount in total US, it's doing X amount in total drug, this is what it looks from a high level. And Rite Aid's like, okay, so what? What does that mean for me? What does that mean for me as a retailer for these particular items? So what I was able to do using 1010 was say, okay, there's these sub-brands that are out there on your shelf right now. There's like items, sister items, whether it's the wash or the lotion, different sizes of the items, and say, there's a valuable shopper base already existing out there waiting for these items. These items are going to bring in new shoppers like these previous items that have come in. So kind of using a case study to say, this is how this item did, this is how our new item will perform as well. And then cross-purchase, like I said before, there's an item already on the shelf that's just waiting to be cross-purchased with this item that we want to bring in. And then loyalty. It always comes back to loyalty. We believe this item is just going to be really right for your Rite Aid shopper, and that you're going to build strong loyalty by having it on your shelf. So the result of I didn't want it all to pop up at once, but oh well. So the result of going through this type of analysis and really digging through and presenting the data factual data and what's actually happening at Rite Aid with the shoppers in the baskets, I was able to myself and my manager were able to optimize assortment, plain and simple. We got everything that we asked for because it was completely rooted in the data and it all just made sense. Just to put a number on it, was 740,000 top line. And then since the reset, so since the new assortment has gone into stores, in July we're growing at 6%, which is pretty awesome from where we came from. Any questions? No, this assortment's in all stores. So now my next bucket is around promotion, and this is kind of where I was able to use 1010 to be a little creative. You could always get creative in 1010. You can pretty much do whatever. I always say you can pretty much do whatever you want in there, which is kind of a good and bad thing because you can spend a lot of time in there, and I do. So the challenge really was we needed to create a new offering because things happen, and I'm sure you've all been there, where promotional plans change, right? A display doesn't get approved, or FSI plans change, or whatever it may be, something happens. So what we needed to do to kind of figure this situation out was come up with a new promotional offering to optimize sales in the first half of the year. And so I got creative. I went through the Rite Aid circular. I looked through categories that weren't a part of any of our competition or in our categories that we focus on, and looked for offerings that could match up with the assortment that we were trying to promote. And I did that. I found, I think it was up to 5 ads that I ended up looking at that were really around the 3-4 offer. So asking shoppers to buy 3 and spending X amount. And that's all good and fine. I found the ads. I said to my CDM, here's the ads. And she said, okay, so what does this mean? How did they perform? Do we know if these are good ads? So what I was able to do in 1010 with the large, robust data set and the access that I do have to other categories, I was able to go through and say, I hit it once, I swear. All right. No. Okay. I was able to go through and say, here's how shoppers reacting, engaging with these ads. So, pulling the POS, this is how it performed from a POS perspective, but then also saying, here's how shoppers were kind of engaging. Were they buying 1? Were they buying 2? Were they actually hitting that threshold and buying 3? So then if there's a plenty, how much would that have cost them? And then how much would this cost us? What kind of plenty overlay are we going to layer on top of our offer? So kind of giving a more data-driven view of what this could look like for us. So what we came up with was a new offer, a 3 for $10 for Listerine. And the result of this was, I hit it once. I hit it once. I swear, maybe I'll just click from here. So it was a new ad offering, and then we also got a display sold in with this, which was awesome, very exciting. The first time we had a 3 for $10 display, so a month long. The program delivered a great lift, both for the promoted products and the full assortment. So that was really exciting. So this kind of leads into my next example, where I'm talking about just basic analysis that I do for circular ads and displays. It's something that I didn't think about initially sharing because it's something that's become like brushing my hair. I don't know, something that I do every day. And what the challenge really was our oral care category really has a dynamic offering of ads. So we understood what was happening from a POS perspective, and I keep pointing over here because this is like my POS world. But so this is what we knew what was happening from a POS perspective. The dollar sales, what unit dollar lift it was driving. There was differences between the certain ads, but not big enough that we were understanding what was really happening, what was good, better, best. So we wanted to understand, and I wanted to get into what was happening from a shopper and basket perspective with these different ads. And that's like my fun little dynamic offering of ads and displays. So we had things like 2 for $10s, $4.99s, BOGO 50s, like I just showed you before, the 3 for $10. So we were also layering in different types of plenty offers. So these ads really were very dynamic and we were pulsing them through. And And what I was able to do was then say, okay, when these ads are running for the week, this is how much or how many shoppers are coming into our total J&J oral care category. This is how many are shopping the actual ad. If it's a 2 for 10, are they actually buying 2? Are they buying 1? Are they doing something that we're asking them to do because of the plenty, or are they going to do it anyway without the plenty? When we're asking them to buy 2, are they in fact buying 2 of the same flavor? Or are they, are we driving trial in a certain sense where they're buying the flavor that they normally buy, but then trying the next one that they, level it. Oh, I thought let me just change. And kind of getting that +1 in the basket. Are we driving new shoppers into our category? Or are we driving new shoppers to our brands? And from that, we really start to understand shopper behavior, how they kind of engage with our ads, what they're thinking when they're shopping our ads, what kind of plenties actually work, and are they engaging with it? So the result of doing this analysis and getting this understanding of what's happening from a shopper and basket perspective during our ad weeks, and even display from a month-long perspective, plain and simple, we're able to really pulse through an efficient ad rotation. So making sure we have the right ads happening at the right times. And it's important because we want to make sure when we're doing these different types of ads, we're understanding the ones that are going to drive trial, and then we're going to have them come back and do their stock-up trip. So making sure that we know which ones are driving the most trial, minimal trial, most stock-up, minimal stock-up, and then most importantly, what plenty offers are working and what aren't. Are we spending a lot of money to make them do something that they would have done anyway? And then this is my favorite part, because this kind of ties in what I was talking about before, where you can constantly keep digging. So this is something that I remember my manager kind of pushing me to do, and now I do it all by myself. But it's really understanding, okay, this is how our ads are performing from a J&J perspective, but what does that look like for the category for the week? And even how does other ads interact with ours? What does that look like from a broader shopper base or a basket base? And then even the front end impact. And this is all information that you could get just by digging through the ad hoc tool, which is pretty cool. And then my last example is around merchandising. So this is actually something that J&J partnered with Rite Aid does really well. And this is a specific example of what I was able to do was prove merchandising success that was already in store. So I'll kind of give you a quick background. In our baby care aisle, about 2.5 years ago or so, they sold in this baby wellness solution center. It was a mixture of shopper marketing data matched with the 10-10 data, which is what the important piece is here, because you're saying, okay, here's the shopper marketing data, here's kind of what the national trend is and what's happening, and these are the insights, but here's how it directly applies to Rite Aid. So you're able to use the 10-10 data and solidify those insights by saying, here's what's actually happening at your stores, and this is why this makes sense. So they sold in this program, and what my job was to do when I came onto the business was say, okay, this is an aisle, it looks great, it's awesome, it's on shelf. We have the complementary pain care items next to the toiletries items in the baby care aisle, so it's kind of a one-stop shop for mom. This is exciting. So, okay, it's driving POS, but is it actually working? Are moms and shoppers standing there and picking up a pain care item and picking up a toiletries item? Like, are they getting what's happening here? And so what I was able to do was just that. I went through a whole analysis of what was happening in the solution center, all because I had this access to 10-10 data. So you have the POS, and then I was able to prove that cross-purchase with these items on the solution center, and the baby toiletries items were growing like over 50%. So moms were really standing there and buying both because of the solution center. And I could dig deep into their market baskets. And the big thing with this is we don't have secondary UPCs at Rite Aid. So when we have secondary placement, it's really hard to kind of track, is the sale coming from its original aisle or the secondary placement? And so what this kind of allows me to do, somewhat of an assumption, but the data really kind of shows that this is what's happening, is say, they're literally standing in front of the solution center picking up multiple items that are on the Solution Center and the toiletries item and putting in their basket. And this wouldn't have happened at other shelves. So you kind of can really understand that the secondary placement was really, really working, which is awesome. Bringing in new shoppers, which we all love, and then having them make multiple trips. So the Solution Center really was a solution for mom and a merchandising success.
Is the Solution Center in all stores or was it select stores?
All stores. And then on top of this, there was a key item that was in the Solution Center that we wanted to make sure it didn't leave the shelf of the Solution Center. So by proving that this item had strong loyalty and that another item on the Solution Center wouldn't be, a go-to if this item wasn't on shelf, we were able to maintain that item on the Solution Center, which was great. And so the result of this, no, it doesn't want to work. Okay. We added a shelf to the Solution Center. So we saw that this pain care cross-purchase with the toiletries items was working, so we got more pain care items put into this aisle, which is awesome. And maintain placement of this item. And then since reset, like I mentioned before, in July, the total subclasses that are involved in this specific Solution Center are up 2.4% in sales, growing off a nice base. And then the same thing with cross-purchase, up 8.8%, which again is really growing off of a really strong base growth that we had last year. So it's awesome to see that this continues to grow. 1010 data really allowed me to showcase what was happening here, and that the cross-purchase and all that market basket data, in fact, was kind of happening. So that was my last example of how I've kind of used specifically the shopper and basket data to really drive home my analysis and really make it whole. And this is a picture of it. You can't really see it. But go to stores and check it out. It's awesome.
But did you brand it that way?
What?
Did you brand it the Solution Center? Or is it just like
It was called the Teething Center. We refer to it as the Wellness Solution Center. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, take you through. Do you want me to go through the slide again? I can. Okay. So it's funny because I built this slide, obviously, before I heard this morning's presentation, and I was just nodding my head the whole time because everything that I'm about to say is kind of something that one of the presenters have hit on already, or what happened during the fireside chat. So what 1010, plain and simple, what it enables me to do is superior analytics. I mean, I talked to other analysts on my team who are working on different accounts or on our customer solution side, and the analytics and the kind of data that I'm able to access is next to none compared to what I've heard. And it really is because I have access to such a robust data set that's in 1010. I mean, it really is everything. So it's all customers, all shoppers. Everything that you want is there. It's not just a sample size or a panel. It's really everything. So you can really understand and know that your data means something and it's completely true. It's not just based off of a sample. And so this is funny because I forget, one of the gentlemen today touched on it. I think it was John. It's such an large data set, so you're thinking, okay, it's so big, it probably runs forever. These reports take forever to run, but no, in fact, it's so quick and efficient, it's ridiculous. I mean, you can have an answer within 30 seconds. These reports run so fast. So you're able to turn things around faster, make quicker decisions, react faster, which is huge in those type of fire drill situations or whatever it is. You have an idea, you can act on it, you can really just root it in data immediately, which is so great. And then for me, it's really about delivering those impactful insights that some of my colleagues on other teams or people who don't necessarily have access to this type of data can't do. And it's really cool to kind of see that come to life. And a lot of the things we do because we have this data access. And then because of all this, we're able to really drive business value, which is at the end of the day what everyone wants to do. And that's really rooted because with the data, we're able to have this strong partnership with Rite Aid. They look to us to kind of deliver these insights, and they know that we're going to. So they really partner with us, both relationship-wise, and they kind of believe in our data. And then with that partnership, we're also able to have really strategic conversations because we're bringing to them on a regular basis this data that drives strategic conversations, which is really helpful when you're meeting with them on a regular basis. You want to make sure you're not just talking about the same thing. You're talking about something that's new and interesting and makes sense. And then what we're all trying to do is drive category solutions. Make sure that from a customer-facing side, J&J, we have our brands, but we want to make sure it's a category growth. So we're growing with the category. Other brands are growing with us as well. And having this data really allows us as a vendor, allows me as an analyst to make sure that's happening. So I can talk about 1010 data for a really long time. I have said this recently, it feels like it's my superpower. I feel like it's something that kind of separates me as an analyst. And I don't know what I'm going to do when I have to move on to a different team and I don't have access to this data anymore. They talk about rough transitions, but this is going to be a rough transition because when I don't have 1010 anymore, I don't know what I'm going to do. But it's really awesome. And I've spent a lot of time in it. So thanks for having me, and thanks for being. I have to give Steve Sack, anytime I have a question about 1010 or anything, he's always right there with the answer. So thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Shelby. Thanks. Great job, Shelby.
Thank you.
We're gonna open up for questions in a second, but I think that when I first talked to the J&J team, they had a list this long of stuff that they were doing, and we had to really pick and choose the ones that really we wanted to be able to illustrate the power of the solution, the ability to unleash all your creativity. And one of the big advantages we have at this account is that the retailer is sitting on the same platform. So I was telling some folks yesterday that these relationships go through an evolution. The first time you bring 1010 data, if you're a new user, the buyer's going to look at it and be, going to check your work, right? Because they don't know if you're trying to game them or whatever. And then you evolve into trust, right? Where you can come in and sit there and say, hey, let me tell you what happened last week. Let me talk about what's doing well. Let me talk about what's doing poorly. And then when you get to the level that the J&J folks, and anybody in this room could be at this same level because of the platform, you get to this reliance role where the buyer will sit there and rely on you to help them solve particular problems, help them grow their business. Because and the reason you can do it is because the platform is so speedy. That's really the key, because all these things that Shelby found, she did not find on her first try, right? She says, let me investigate this. And she grabs 50 million transactions, right? 50 million transactions. And she goes, oh, just show me baby care and just with the cards and only baskets that had 3 or more items and bing, bang, boom. And she looks at the answer and goes, that's not really it. And takes 2 steps back. Let me grab 25 million customers and throw in a couple more categories. And the ability to just sit there and creatively think. I mean, I don't want to say a show of hands, but how many people have ever produced a report and showed it to somebody and then somebody says, can you just tweak that and add another column? And you go back, you're starting over. In this case, you can just move back and forth in the system, let your creativity drive your discovery, and work with colleagues and trade ideas around. I mean, it is really phenomenal. And when you get to the point that the J&J team has, and many, many others who leverage this data, you really have a partnership with that retailer because they don't have the bandwidth to go through your stuff. They don't, right? Sometimes you can't even get them to pick up the phone. So I want to thank the team for agreeing to present today. I want to thank all of you. We have a full house here. We won't tell the fire marshal how many people we got in the room today. And so we have maybe a minute. Does anybody have any questions for the group? I think there was a comp store question, and Rite Aid right now is putting all their money into remodel, so that 6% growth was essentially a comp store growth. You didn't have any tailwind from new store openings. So does that answer your question? Okay, very good. Yeah, sometimes, oh yeah, they open 6% more stores, so yeah, we're great. No, not really, right? Yes, ma'am.
I guess what kind of data actually was it? Was it just store transactions? Was it through the Nielsen partnership, or is it actual 1010 data?
The 1010 data solution at Rite Aid is Rite Aid data. So, and at Rite Aid, when you subscribe to the highest tier, it's not the pharmacy data. HIPAA doesn't allow them to share the pharmacy data, but it's all the front-end data, everything that's not pharmacy. So Shelby can sit there and say, Johnson's No More Tears shampoo. Show me every basket that had No More Tears shampoo in it. Bang. So she gets 25 million rows, right? Says, now show me when somebody bought more than one, what did they buy? And what's great about Rite Aid is they have a loyalty card. So there's sort of an iteration. The basket can tell you what people are buying at the same time, but people don't run out of stuff at the same time, right? So you might not buy everything in the same trip. So you can use the card because you shopped on Monday and you bought a toothbrush, and on Wednesday you bought toothpaste, right? So the card allows you to see customer behavior over time and develop tactics and strategies. You sit there and say 3 for 5, right? She counted up the customers in the competitive ads. She said, what were they on the hook for this, right? And develop a strategy that meets the business needs and is financially feasible, right? So it's so hard to describe because it changes the whole paradigm. People are used to running reports and cobbling together solutions based on what the report will tell them. But instead, you just sit there and say, what answer will help me develop a tactic or strategy? And that's what this platform does. It allows you to sit there and say, if I knew this, I could figure out a tactic or a strategy to grow my business, or leverage this thing that's doing well, or save this item that's below the line. Who gets items below the line saved? Well, J&J does because they leverage the data. Yes, sir.
How easy is it to kind of structure the fields within the tool to be able to do the type of analysis that Shelby did?
There's a learning curve. The ad hoc tool is a lot of where I'm at with a lot of the data that I was talking about. So I've been on the team for about a year and 3 months or so. So I would say it takes a few months to kind of really get in there. The cool thing is you're always able to learn pretty much every day. I'm probably at like a 2 compared to I'm at like a 3 or a 4. I mean, you can get to anything, and as long as you invest the time to kind of learn the tool, that's what it's really about.
Yeah, we're up against 10:30, so if anybody wants to stop by and ask other questions up front, thank you all for attending. And I would suggest if you want to take a look at that ad hoc tool, I think we got some people downstairs who are doing some demos, so you can really understand it in a real world. So thanks again, everybody, and enjoy the rest of the summit.